their search warrant, but that was not on there. They thought that it was Malachi York's property. It was at one time, but then had transferred over to other members who were also involved with the Yamassee Native American Moors.
So it was like shared owners.
Right, of which Malachi York was not one of. So that's basically like if I did something wrong and I was at one time at the house that you now own, they come in and raid your house because I lived there at one time without going through the proper procedure of making sure that your name was on it for them to come there.
I'll follow you.
And another big part of it is a whole issue of jurisdiction. And the reality of it is that Malachi York, who's affectionately known to us as Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, Chief of the Yamassee Native American Moors, is a Native American. Some people choose the term Indian, but he is a Native American.
Okay.
And thus falls into a different type of jurisdiction than the way they're treating him currently within the system. And this is something that hasn't been alleged as far as just since this case has ensued. This is something that he's made known through a genealogical chart that stems all the way back from Ben York of the Lewis and Clark expedition, all the way even before that to Old York, and the tie-in with the Yamassees and the Shoshone Native Americans there. So this is another argument that we're saying that they're intentionally trying to ignore.
Oh, I see. Now, what other involvement have you had with Dr. York and the nation?
Okay, well, in regards to the property, because I have educational background in the engineering field, civil particularly, I had taken on the position of getting involved with different things involved with the structures on the property. In other words, when there was building permits that were required to be obtained, if there were a liaison needed between the owners and general contractors or other engineers, I was involved in that. And what brought me to be as convicted as I am to be involved with this case is that I was there from the very beginning to see the racial discrimination by the county commissioners of Putnam County, the racist discrimination by the sheriff, Howard Richard Seals of Putnam County, Georgia, the planning and zoning. I was there when plans were submitted to be able to build on our own land and denied without reason. And this is continued harassment, continued racial discrimination that stemmed back as far as I've been involved, which goes back to 1997.
Okay, and what do you think brought this racial discrimination about?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that were involved in what brought all of this about. But in my point of view, from the angle that I've been dealing with, but this point is that that's also the home to Reynolds Plantation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but that's one of the most well-known, wealthiest resorts for different people of the upper echelon here in Georgia and all over. And what happened is that when you take a Native American who they see as black, come in the middle of their backyard and establish 476 acres, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see pyramids, you see obelisks, you see totem poles, you see sphinxes, you see different things of culture that's being erected, and it didn't go through their quote-unquote approval of, is this okay for us to build on our land, the things that we want to build. They had a problem with that, because they knew before they get to this huge resort, which also ties in Mercer Reynolds and Sheriff Seals, as well as some other individuals who were in influential political positions in Georgia, they would have to pass on 142 right by our Native American village, and that was going to create a problem for them.
Getting back to Attorney Adrian Patrick, you mentioned about the post-trial procedure. Give us some insight on that, because I'm kind of particularly, interested in that post-trial.
First of all, when a lot of times I refer to an appeal, but when I say appeal, I mean any post-trial proceeding. In a federal case, after there is a conviction, there is a period of time before sentencing. In other words, the person convicted does not immediately become sentenced. And thus, the actual, per se, written brief for an appeal is not filed till after the sentencing. But I want to address the interim time between the conviction and the
sentencing.
Right. And what has currently been filed is a motion for new trial based upon, we just stated that the evidence was insufficient. We felt that the way the trial was conducted was improper, things like that, but we had some very strong issues there.
Okay.
Also, we don't feel all of the elements of the crimes alleged were proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Also, we filed a motion to stay the forfeiture proceedings in this case, and a motion for a judgment of acquittal. Now, basically, the motion for judgment of acquittal addresses the fact that we don't feel there was enough evidence presented for the case to even go to a jury. That basically the judge should have dismissed the case prior to even being submitted to a jury. That's how strongly we felt about the case. Also, the motion to stay the forfeiture proceedings pending the appeal, meaning that prior to any action being taken on any of the properties, that we should wait on the appellate courts to make a final decision on the case. Because if the property is forfeited or seized prior to the appellate courts making their decision, then there could be irreparable harm to Dr. York.
Isn't that something like prejudging it before it?
Right. If it becomes seized prior to the appeal, then there is prejudgment. In other words, you're assuming that the appellate courts are going to make a decision in the government's favor, as opposed to Dr. York's favor. You follow me?
Yeah. Can you speak on some of the alleged accusations?
The properties?
Yeah, as far as Dr. York and I mean the charges that said was pending.
Right. The forfeiture in relation to the charges, you mean, or just the charges, period?
Just the charges.
In general,
right.
Let me address one more thing. After the sentencing, you have 10 days to file a notice of appeal.
Right.
Then you have to file a brief after that point.
Okay.
Right. So it's a fairly lengthy process.
Right.
And in this particular case, there is also a state case pending.
Okay.
So there's an issue that has to be dealt with also. So there's a substantial amount of post-trial activity.
Federal and state.
Right.
Okay.
In this case.
Okay.
Right. Now, in terms of the charges themselves, generally the allegations were involving individuals that were ousted from the organization for one reason or another. And these individuals got together and basically went to South Beach, Miami, which is a trip that was organized by Jacob York. And
Jacob York is
Dr. York's son.
Okay.
Right. And it was organized by Jacob York. And it is our defense theory, and it still remains our defense theory, and we presented this theory at trial. But we were limited in our presentation of it, but nevertheless, that Jacob York, who had a grudge against his father, organized all of these members that